Well, hello. Welcome to Orchid Blooms podcast. Welcome back, bloomers. My name is Orchid Brown. I am your host with the Orchid Blooms podcast. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. We still call it Twitter, at Orchid Eye Brown. Definitely take the time to check out the TAOnetwork.ca website and click on blog so that you may read 3 blog posts that I have posted up on the website. First being embracing the power of reset, transforming my life one step at a time. And the second blog post is called Navigating Wholeness, a journey from unresolved trauma to holistic well-being. And of course, my personal favorite, which I really love this one, Mirroring My Dual Selves, the Fighter and the Heart Weaver. So definitely check it out on the website, read them, whichever one you resonate with, and learn a little bit more. I personally, like I said, the mirroring is my favorite because it is literally something that I experience through my spiritual journey. And while we are on that topic, I realized in our previous podcast episode that we did not go into defining spirituality and spiritualism. So let's take the time now to review them. Spirituality is defined in the dictionary as the quality of being concerned with the human spirit or soul as opposed to material or physical things. Spirituality involves the recognition of a feeling or sense or belief that there is something greater than myself, something more than being human, than sensory experience, and that the greater whole of which we are part in cosmic or divine in nature. It is an individual's search for ultimate or sacred meaning and purpose in life. It can mean to seek out or search for personal growth, religious experience, belief in a supernatural realm or afterlife, or to make sense of one's own inner dimension. So I really want you to see if you resonate with the term spirituality. Understand that believing in something greater than oneself could also mean the universe. There are a lot of atheists that likes to say things as, I'm going to leave it to the universe to decide my path or to bring something to me. That also means that you believe in something greater than yourself. And so I feel that there's a lot of people in this world that are spiritual and that they're definitely might not feel comfortable defining themselves as spiritual, or that they follow spirituality, but they reject religion. And because they reject religion, why not? Especially if you do believe in something greater than yourself. It could be the universe, which actually is greater than us. As long as you don't idolize the universe, I feel that we're good. You can definitely just believe that the universe is so vast and so amazing, and always want to explore it because it opens new possibilities. So I can understand that. As long as you just don't idolize it, I'm good. So spiritualism is defined in the dictionary as a system of belief or religious practice based on supposed communication with the spirits of the dead, especially through mediums. Now, before I continue, I just want to say the term supposed was a part of the definition in the dictionary. I personally would not use that because there are people out there who do actually practice communicating with the spirits or the dead, and this is their profession. So I don't want those types of people to feel that I am demeaning by using supposed communication, but just recognize that it's not something that's personally said by myself, but more what was defined in the dictionary. A core belief of spiritualism is that individuals survive the death of their bodies by ascending into a spirit existence. A person's condition after death is directly related to the moral qualities of his human existence, his or her. I would like to edit. I consider myself a spiritual person. This is something I told people while attending church. I just would not connect to the beliefs of others in the church, which stems from the head of the sheep that followed. I did not connect with that. I don't associate myself as a sheep. I'm a head, excuse me. I make my own decisions. I do what's right for me and my family if I have to. So I'm not a sheep. I don't follow. Unless I get that communication from God Himself or the Holy Spirit, I will always choose to believe my intuition over, trying to be a follower or a sheep. Their mindset was what I rejected. Their beliefs left no room for growth, acceptance, or freedom. The encouragement of shame, guilt, and unforgiveness of oneself, I could not connect to that. I don't believe in sacrificing myself for others, especially in hopes that they will validate me. No, thank you. I value myself. I am enough. I am just as valuable as everyone else. There are too many people that believe in prayer without action and to stay in discomfort at a cost to themselves. I don't believe that prayer without action is good. I don't know how else to say it. I think that's the first thought process I had when I first walked into a church that I went to here in my city, when they were saying, just pray about it. And I was like, okay, what do you mean just pray about it? And they're like, just pray about it, and then God is just going to show up. And I was like, okay, but you can't just pray about it, sit there, and it just happens, right? And they're like, well, no, go on with your life and it'll just happen for you. I don't believe in that. I believe that you can pray about it and still act on it and just kind of hope for the best. But you have to put your best foot forward. So I could not connect to that thought process. I could not connect to that way of life of praying about it and just sit on it and hope for the best. No way, Jose. I'm going to get my ass up and I'm going to do something about it. And if it works out, thank the Lord. The delusion that some of these churchgoers have, as well as their deep-rooted fears, it just threw me off. The gossiping, the tearing down of others in the church and labeling out of jealousy was just high school to me. I could not connect to that. You are grown ass people. You're a little too old for this shit. But that was the case. And I couldn't connect to it. That lack of growth is a turnoff. All of these aspects can be a deterrent to your own personal growth. But I do understand the need to have a place for people who lack discipline, values, and morals to come and learn this purpose in their lives, or learn their purpose in their lives. I even understand the need to have fellowship with like-minded people. I am just not a fan of cliques or feeling superior. That does not bring me joy. This is why I identify as a spiritual person rather than religious. There's just no room to learn and grow without spirituality. I feel that religious guilt and shame isn't something I want to live and stay in those negative thoughts and feelings. It is not living. We are all humans, and I feel that we just kind of need to accept that. What is religious shame? It is shame and anxiety about sin. And I have met these people where they become so obsessed with the fact that they have sinned or they made a mistake, and they just completely tear themselves apart. So religious shame is a feeling. It is a feeling of a deep sense of shame that you will always be a sinner, and a sinking sense of futility, that nothing you do can ever change that. No matter how many times you repent, you may have even been taught that you were born with sin. And that is crazy to me. To me, that is just abuse of self. Those thoughts sound like imprisonment. I wouldn't be surprised if people feeling this way contemplated suicide. I would not blame them. Those types of thoughts, it's death. Yes, people may associate this with mental health or depression, but we are all sinners. We all make mistakes. All we can do is grow and do better going forward. We are only humans. Religious guilt are shown in religious individuals who experience higher level of interpersonal guilt that those who are not who are not religious. It is a pathological guilt and anxiety about moral issues. It usually relates to religious beliefs. I am happy to say that I have never experienced anything like this. Maybe that is due to my upbringing, but I was able to learn at a young age that people sin, and the people didn't change in my eyes. They were the same before and after the act. Some acts cannot be forgiven, and some acts can be forgiven. It was the judgment that changed people from what I have observed. They either change for the good or they become hateful, bitter, and resentful due to their treatment. Some judgments are justified, and I will stand on them with my whole chest. I would cut you off over certain things, but what hurts the most is that the most despicable sin due to my morals is not considered a sin. For example, sexual acts on children. To me, that is a death penalty, but it is not considered a sin. Now, I know that people may confuse spiritualism with spirituality, so I wanted to touch on what spiritualism is and the difference between them. Spiritualism is the belief that spirits of the dead can communicate with the living. This was a movement that started in the religious 19th and 20th century. The thought process is that life continues after death, which I do agree with. I just don't feel that y'all need to contact me to talk to me. Please let me rest in peace. The difference between spiritualism and spirituality is that spirituality is based on our personal well-being and self-development, which happens within. Spirituality can encompass many different things to people, but that is your personal spiritual journey and no one else. That is what I love about it. My journey is mine and has nothing to do with a flock of people in a building. I do believe in the power of prayer and worship, so I am not saying that church does not have its benefits. Now, what are those benefits if we were to actually get into that topic? So the first benefit, number one, is prayer helps you to develop a relationship with God. You can even hear God's voice. Number two, prayer helps you to gain an understanding of God's loving nature because God is love. Number three, prayer provides answers, and this I can attest to. Well, number one, I can attest to, and number three, I can attest to. Because I do sometimes get answers through prayer. Number four, prayer helps you find direction in life. Number five, prayer gives you strength to avoid temptation. Number six, prayer aligns your will with God's will. Number seven, prayer and regular fasting can help you accept God's will. Number eight, prayer can work miracles. Number nine, prayer invites the Holy Spirit into your life. Number 10, prayer helps you become more like Jesus. So those are the top 10 benefits to prayer. And a lot of people may connect to a few points that I have mentioned. I know I did. And it's 1 in 3 for me. So, other people might say otherwise. Another aspect that people are working on as well as meditation is shadow work. Shadow work involves exploring and integrating the unconscious aspect of oneself, such as repressed emotions, fears, and desires to achieve greater personal growth. Shadow work paves the way for a more authentic and fulfilling life, embracing all parts of oneself with understanding and self-compassion. Due to people's lack of knowledge of shadow work, and that includes myself, it is beneficial to do therapy instead. But for those that would like to take this journey on their own, such as myself, I am that person. I love my own company. I love learning more about me. When I was doing the research on it, I read up on the topic on betterup.com. I learned a lot. So I will share what I learned from that article. You can go and read it yourself if you like to. It's betterup.com. What stood out to me was the shadow manifests as our triggers. That I could identify with because I have been triggered, but for me, it has been for my benefit. Whereas when you hear the term trigger, you think, it was like a really bad experience. Like you went nuts and you could not identify with the person that you became in that moment when you're triggered. It's a negative thing. But for me, my triggers seems to be really positive. It works in my benefit. The emotional reactions that we haven't fully dealt with, but bubbled up to the surface under the right/wrong circumstances. I have been triggered for years now by people that have been trying to take advantage of my kindness. For me, it was the right circumstances because I finally stood up for myself. And that trigger pushed me to do that and express the right reaction to people that did not serve me. And that is what I mean by it was to my benefit. I loved it. I felt free and I will never let go. I love myself and appreciate myself on a whole new level. I am proud to be a bitch. And I am as petty as fuck. I am in my villain era. I am unleashing in a healing way. Healing for me, of course, forget about you. But I just find that with these triggers, I really put myself first in that moment and I will tell you off. And if it does not serve me, I'm going to tell you to get lost. And I won't regret it. I won't even feel bad because for the first time ever, through the trigger, I am choosing me. That's not a bad thing. I'm not beating them up. I might drag them for filth, but I'm not beating them up. Sticks and stones can break their bones, but they'll heal from it. No. I'm just glad that I stood up for myself and I decided to put my feelings for these people aside and just let them know I'm not tolerating their shit and I'm definitely not taking their bullshit. And the trigger has been amazingly effective for me to the point that in that circumstances, I don't get triggered anymore. Because through all the triggers, I kind of healed from it with my response. I found that I'm not triggered anymore. If I see it, I say something, and that's it. I don't allow it to continue on and on and on until I snap anymore. It's like, yeah, I don't identify with that, and I need you to stop that. But if you continue to do that, understand that what you get towards the end is what you deserve. Of course, that's the warning. I always like to warn. So In that situation, the triggers have been very beneficial for me. So BetterUp.com says it takes training, self-awareness, guidance, and courage to help you face your shadow self in a healthy way. My philosophy right now is that I won't come for you if you don't come for me. That's the right way. But once I start, I keep coming till you learn to stop taking advantage of good people. And this is kind of something that, I was watching a movie on Prime. What is it called? Divorce in the Black. And I didn't really want to watch it, but I ended up watching it because I really like Meagan Good as an actress. And towards the end of the film, she says a statement about pushing good people too much and how eventually, they will snap. She didn't say it in those types of words, but that's kind of what I understood from it. Eventually, good people will fight back. And I resonated with that because that is literally how I have been feeling in my villain era, is that you push, I will push back. And if you want to see someone who's relentless, I can keep coming until you understand. Stop messing with good people, because they can either be your friend or your enemy. And when they're your enemy, they're the worst enemy that you could ever have. Shadow work is designed to help you integrate and accept every single part of yourself so that you can live and thrive with more clarity and authenticity. What I love are the 8 different archetypes. So let's go over them. And when I saw it in the article, I was like, OMG. And I started reading through it going, OMG. Which one do I identify with at this moment in time? So the first one is self. You can tell I was very excited about reading this article. So let's go back to self. Number 1, the center of the personality or psyche, your conscious awareness. So that's the first one. Number 2, shadow, the dark and emotional aspect of your psyche. Number 3, Amina, an image of an ideal woman that draws people into their feminine side. Aminas. Number 4, a part of you that has the capacity for reflection and self-knowledge. Number 5, persona, the mask you wear to show the world while you protect your inner self. Number 6, hero, a part of your psyche that can overcome evil and destruction. Number 7, wise old man, a personification of the self that contains your wisdom. Number 8, trickster, a childish part of your psyche that needs gratification. Going over this because I was so excited. I was, number 1, really excited by number 2, which is shadows, because right now that's where I'm at. But I've noticed that over time, I slowly transitioned into anima, which is the image of the idealized woman that draws people into their feminine side. But then at the same time, aminus, I connect to that as well, because right now I am just really into self-reflection and self-knowledge. Like, I really love myself. Persona, not so much, but definitely the hero, which is a part of the psyche that overcomes evil and destruction. Like, I'm a fighter. And of course, wise old man, I've always been that person, but I am slowly getting into my trickster side. So we'll see the transition. So far, I've been like gliding and moving. Like, every day is not just one archetype. It's different days could have different archetypes, really depending on how I feel when I wake up in the morning. So that part of the article really, really excited me, because I've never had that sort of breakdown before about that. And I was so excited. So hopefully, based on, the 1 to 8 archetypes that I've mentioned, you can identify which one of those are what you're feeling and what you've experienced through your journey. So let's continue. There was an example that was used regarding people from my past that told me I talk too much. I have to thank them, because talking less became, my my power. It's really funny that, all these people said that, and they were giving me like the greatest advice. It makes people uncomfortable when I'm quiet, especially those that want to take advantage of me. My silence has been killer. So thank you for teaching me that. I no longer overshare. I also no longer try to make people feel comfortable around me. If I make you feel uncomfortable, that's a you problem. That's not a me problem. Especially after you did me wrong. Oh, honey, I want you to feel very uncomfortable. I have no issues letting you fester in your guilt and giving you nothing in return for your suffering. I have no problems with that. Shadow work has been so good to me. There is no guilt, no shame. I am my authentic self and I love it. I also love the fact that they listed the effects of ignoring your shadow. The effects are self-loathing or poor self-esteem, self-deceit or deceiving others. So with that one, I kind of understood it as you're lying to yourself and then you lie to other people. And those are very dangerous people in the world. The next one on that list is anxiety and depression. Yes, and the next one is offensive behavior towards others, struggling to have healthy relationship with others, self-sabotage, self-absorption, and inflated ego. And I've met so many people that struggle with all of these all in one. It's just crazy to know that these people that are struggling with these things that I have met, they have not done the shadow work. When you reject your shadow, you may also start projecting onto others. Projection happens when you see things in others that you subconsciously recognize within yourself. This brings us back to the cutoff game episode I did when I discussed projection. So after this episode, if you have not listened to the cutoff game episode that I did a few months back, I will encourage you to go back and listen to it, because I do talk about projection in that podcast episode, and that's something that I noticed that I did in all of my relationships. So continuing, the eighth benefit of shadow work, and this is something that I want you to take away from this podcast episode, since we're definitely concluding soon. The first one is that you gain more confidence and self-esteem. Number 2, it improves your creativity. Number 3, it builds better relationship with others. Number 4, practice self-acceptance. Number 5, discover your hidden talents. Number 6, improves your overall wellness. Number 7, increase your compassion towards others. And number 8, have better clarity. It is a very good article, and I would like to encourage you to read up on it if you have the opportunity. One of the reasons why I decided to end the podcast episode with shadow work is because when you're going on your spiritual journey, or if you identify as a spiritual person, you have to do the shadow work. It has to reflect, who you are as a person. Being a spiritual person means that you literally walk into an open, free version of yourself where you accept both good and bad, and you just have a level of wisdom and understanding of yourself and the world and your place in it a little bit more if you do the shadow work. You can't carry the burdens or the baggages from your past with you. You have to actually work on it. You actually have to fully embrace your most authentic self is what I feel that needs to be done. So I definitely hope that all of you who are, on your spiritual journey or, starting your spiritual journey do consider your shadow work, because again, you need to experience enlightenment. You do need to experience that awakened version of yourself. because it's just so freeing and it's just so wonderful if you do. So that concludes this podcast episode, and I wanted to thank you for supporting the Orchid Blooms podcast. Please subscribe, follow, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast episode or the podcast itself on any platform that you listen to this podcast on. We also have social media pages, so subscribe and follow to Orchid Bloom's YouTube channel, The Ambitious Obsession Network on Facebook, at The Ambitious Ops on Twitter, at The Ambitious Net on Instagram. Don't forget to check out the taonetwork.ca website. Click on blog and read some of the blog posts that I have posted up so far. There's 3, so enjoy the read. And don't forget to share your favorite podcast episode with your family and your friends. I also hope you have a blessed and splendid August.